We are awaiting a busy day to kick off on Capitol Hill starting in just 2 hours, as the Senate is expected to begin their vote-a-rama on President Trump's big, beautiful bill.
So this all started on Saturday in the upper chamber when all but 2 Republicans voted to advance the package into debate before receiving its final vote and heading to the House.
The 20-hour debate period then began Sunday afternoon when the Democrats' delay tactic finally came to a close. A nearly 16-hour reading of the 940-page package forced by Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer pushed debate well into the night. But now, lawmakers are quickly approaching the July 4th deadline set by the president to get to his desk. He wants that bill on his desk.
A lot of moving parts. Got team coverage for you. Let's go to senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy. He's here with the president's reaction. But first, we begin with Aisha Hasni. According to reports, we want to start with Aisha because we like you better.
Well, I like you too. I like Peter too. You guys have your coffee, your snacks ready. It's going to be a very, very, very long day because Vote-a-rama, yes, begins in just the next 2 hours here. We're going to start to see some senators showing up here. Hopefully they got a couple of hours of sleep here because this is going to be a very long, strenuous process here. But Republicans are inching very, very closely to getting this done and sending this big, beautiful bill over to the House, although it hasn't come without some spilled blood. Over the weekend, as you know, the Senate passed the big, beautiful bill, the House's version at least, 51-49 to begin debating this bill. And there were 2 defections on the Republican side. 2 Republicans, Senator Rand Paul and Tom Tillis, voted no. And that drew the ire of President Trump, who threatened to primary Tillis. Well, a few hours later, Tillis announced that he would not be seeking re-election. And here he is, along with others, on the floor debating the bill until about the wee hour of 1 a.m. last night.
This bill in its current form will betray the very promise that Donald J. Trump made.
This bill makes the 2017 tax cuts permanent. It avoids a tax increase for your family that's coming in December if we don't act now.
Republicans are about to pass the single most expensive bill in U.S. history to give tax breaks to billionaires while taking away Medicaid, SNAP benefits, and good-paying jobs for millions of people.
Okay, so what is the Vote-a-rama? We keep talking about it. It starts at 9 a.m. This is an opportunity for senators on both sides of the aisle to offer up an unlimited amount of amendments. This is where it gets tricky. The timing of sending everybody home, bringing them back this morning, could have been an unpopular decision, Brian, because normally you want to wear out the minority in the overnight hours so that they don't drag this along. And last time, when they did the Inflation Reduction Act, that was President Biden's big sweeping legislation, that Vote-a-rama went on for 14 hours. President Trump is adding maximum pressure from the White House, although not as hung up on that July 4th deadline anymore.
I'd like to say yes, but the problem is if we're 2 days late or 5 days late, everybody says, oh, he had a tremendous failure. Whatever it is, as long as we have it, it's very important. If we don't have it, there's a 68% tax increase. If we don't have it, you know, the debt ceiling extension is very important.
And guys, the way things are going, we are expecting the earliest we could see the House vote on this would be Wednesday. And that might be a strategy here to try to jam the House so that people don't have a lot of time over there to complain about this, jam them right before the 4th of July holiday weekend. Guys.
Was the 14 hours a record, or is that just long?
No, not a record. It's just a very long time. This could just go on for 2 or 4 hours, but we have seen them try these delay tactics, especially over the weekend. So we expect this to be a very, very long Vote-a-rama.
Aisha, they changed the bill. So now when it goes to the House, do you expect for there to be this?
They haven't changed it yet.
Okay, so
what this is the part that's going to change it.
Exactly. So they're going to change different portions that the House already did. So when it goes back to the House, you expect another big debate again, right?
Yes. Yes, we do, and we're already seeing it. However, like I said, the timing of this can actually work in Speaker Johnson's favor. So the earliest we'll see the Rules Committee get this would be on Tuesday, and then they would have to forego the 72-hour rule because they'll just say this is not a new bill, it's just an amended version of our bill. And then the earliest they could vote is Wednesday. I actually think that the later they vote on this, closer to the holiday, the quicker they can get this done, because then you put a lot more pressure on these conservatives that will have a problem with the amount of cuts, spending cuts that there are in this bill, and then President Trump can add his maximum pressure at the last minute.
What was the reaction from the other Republicans when Tom Tillis and Rand Paul didn't support this?
Well, they've been a little bit more tight-lipped about this. I mean, you just heard Jim Banks didn't really have a reaction to it other than he should have voted for this bill. But Tom Tillis said that he called up, he spoke both to Leader John Thune, or at least he told them, and then President Trump as well, that he wasn't going to run for re-election. And that's something that he'd been thinking about for a long time. Wasn't a huge surprise because we knew that there was going to be a primary threat coming from the White House. But I would say that the concern, there is a concern that if they can't get this done in time and these taxes go up, then they lose the House and they
100%.
Potentially could lose the Senate. Yes, that's a bigger concern they have.
Right.
Aisha, thanks so much.
You got it.
I also think it's important to point out that guys like Tom Massey and Rand Paul, they just don't, I don't like it. I mean, you don't like it. Ron Johnson didn't like it, tries to make it better. Rick Scott doesn't like it, tries to make it better. Senator Josh Hawley goes in there, I want to make some changes. Your job is to go in there and compromise, get the most you can, use maximum leverage, but just going, yeah, too much spending, not good for me. He goes and golfs with the president for 18 holes, no give. Hey, Mr. President, this is my map towards acceptance. This is what's possible.
That is a good point.
That's not what you're there to do. You're there to get stuff done. And if you can't, if they don't reach your threshold after trying, that's one thing.
And I agree with them on a lot of the principles, Thomas Massey and Rand Paul, on reining in the spending. But at the same time, you got to get all these members to vote for it.
It's not perfect, but it does need to pass because no one can afford 68% tax increase. It's the largest tax cut in history. No tax on tips or overtime, so that's great for the working class. Funds border security and deportations. It funds our military. It begins to reform Medicaid.
So as President Trump pushes for the beautiful, big, beautiful bill to land on his desk by July the 4th, his July 9th deadline for trade negotiations with other nations still looms.
Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy, who we like very much too, joins us now with all the details. Hey, Peter.
Good morning. And the Canadians blinked in a trade war with the U.S. after President Trump announced this weekend that he was going to suspend all trade talks with our neighbors to the north. They decided to turn off a new tax one day before it was set to come due. It is the digital services tax that took effect in June of last year, and it requires some businesses to pay a 3% tax on revenue that they earn from engaging with Canadian users online. So that could affect companies like Amazon and Meta and Google and Apple. And as tariff talks continue with other countries and Canada, the president's team is most concerned with protecting the following sectors: steel, aluminum, auto, copper, lumber, semiconductors and jet engines, and pharmaceuticals. And all those tariff deals are set to be settled by a long-standing July 9th deadline.
We made a deal pretty much with India. We made a deal with China. We made a deal with UK, great people. We made deals. But I'd rather just send them a letter, a very fair letter, saying, congratulations, we're going to allow you to trade in the United States of America. You're going to pay a 25% tariff, or 20%, or 40 or 50%. I would rather do that.
The president's legislative team is still whipping votes for the big, beautiful bill. They're telling Republicans that it would do the following. On taxes, it would deliver the long-promised tax incentives for tips, overtime, seniors, and car loans. It would extend the Trump tax cuts. It would raise the child tax credit, and it would add state and local tax deductions, the SALT deductions. And then on spending and budget provisions, it would increase defense spending. It would have billions for immigration enforcement. It would have Medicaid reforms. It would raise the debt ceiling, and it would have states start to chip in for SNAP benefits. But if they cannot get this done, that's going to be a big problem here at the White House, because President Trump stuffed so many different things that he promised he was going to do in the campaign into this bill, and he has been trusting Mike Johnson and John Thune to get it done. If they can't, it's going to take a really, really long time for them to go individual item by individual item and fight it out over each thing to try to get the Trump agenda passed. Back to you.
Yeah, I just, in the back of his head, John Thune must be saying, this is why I wanted to do two bills.
Many of them are having machine guns mounted on them. The positions of the Israeli occupation forces are shelling us with artillery and tank shells, in addition to the opening of gunfires. Thousands, more than 250,000, up to 500,000 are flocking to the only center, food distribution center in the Gaza Strip. What is graver in danger are the quadcopter or the Israeli drones that are opening fire indiscriminately on the crowd, despite the fact that none of the civilian population among these crowds are centers, drones are opening fire randomly and indiscriminately on the civilian population. Apart from that, the Israeli warships are opening fire and also shelling us from the sea. The distribution centers open their doors 6 o'clock in the morning, during which who goes out, we face them. Based on your narrative, the main reason you go and